Another important topic that we need to discuss before getting deeper into our theme is internationalization and localization. So, internationalization, sometimes you'll see it written as I-18N, and that's because there are 18 letters between the I and the N, refers to the process of making your theme available for translation. So in order for translators to be able to translate your theme, we have to do some special things while coding. Localization, on the other hand, refers to the process of actually translating the theme. So in order to localize a theme, it must be internationalized first. So we will talk about localization at the end of this course, but what's important to know now is how to internationalize your theme. And we should know that very well early on, because we will use internationalization functions in pretty much every file we create. So let's visit our code now and see what we should do in order to make our theme translatable. I'm having index.php open right now, and we're not responsible for anything that comes from the database, like the title and the content and so on. We're only responsible for strings, like the sorry, no posts match your criteria. Imagine we want to translate the string. The only way we can do that now is by actually editing the index.php file and replacing the string. But that's not a good practice. So what we can do is we can wrap these strings in some functions, and these functions will make sure that the string will be translatable. So before doing anything, let's go to the browser and let's go to a non-existing page so that we can get the sorry string, this one. And now let's go back and let's open PHP tags before the string. And let's pass our string as a first argument in a function called underscore underscore. Alright. And then the second argument is something called the text domain. So remember in style.css when we mentioned that we should add a field called text domain and it should be unique. So this is it, and this is what we should pass as a second argument here. So WordPress will use this text domain in order to distinguish between the translations for different themes and plugins. So it should be unique to our theme, and we will also use it when we come to localization at the end of this course. But for now, just make sure to pass this second argument every time you use one of these translation functions. Also, make sure not to pass it as a variable. It should always be a string. And same for the translation string. Make sure not to use variables here like this, or even by appending like this. We'll see how to handle variables in strings later in this lecture. So what this underscore underscore function will do, it will return the string we passed as a first argument if your website is in English, or if you have your website in another language, it will return the translation of this string from a translation file that we will learn how to generate later in this course. So all you have to know now is just when you output any string in your theme, you must wrap it in a translation function. And we'll see other translation functions later in this lecture. So let's refresh the browser. And as you can see, we have nothing. And that's because this function does not echo, it just returns the value. So you can use this function if you want to maybe assign this string to a variable maybe. But if you need to echo your string, you can just use echo and then use the underscore underscore function. So here we have it. Or WordPress also provides another function called underscore e, and this will translate and echo your string. Great, so let's now see some of the other functions that we can use for translation. So I'm going to open a PHP tag here to do some testing. So assume we have a number of comments that will come from the database, so it will be dynamic. But let's say it's currently 3. And then we want to display a string that will be one comment if we have only a single comment. Or if we have more than one comment, we want to display the number of comments and then the string comments. In other words, we want to display either one comment or 3 comments. Alright, and also at the same time we want to make this string translatable. So how can we do that? WordPress provides another function which is _n, and what you can do is you can pass the singular version of your string, so 1 comment, and then the second argument is the plural version. So let's write comments for now, and then we'll see how to add the number. And the third argument is the number, and this number will decide which string will be used. And of course, the last argument is the text domain. So let's see what do we have in the browser. And we have comments, because we have 3 comments. If we change this to 1, we now should have 1 comment. Great, so how do we display the number before the comments? And keep in mind that we mentioned that we cannot put variables in translated strings. So in order to achieve that, we can use a function called printf. And printf, if you are familiar with PHP, will print a formatted string. So let's say we would like to print a string which will say this post has, and then the number of comments. So what we can do with printf, we can put a placeholder which will start with a modulo sign or a percentage sign, and then a character, and this character will signify the type of the placeholder. So if it's gonna be a string, we can put S. If it's gonna be a number, we can put D, and so on. So in our case, we can use S because it's a string. And then let's put the rest of the sentence, so comments. And then the second argument is the value that we want to replace the placeholder with. So in our case, it's comments. So let's take a look. And as you can see, we have this post has 3 comments. The modulus S placeholder is replaced with the actual number. So how can we use printf for this situation here? We can add the placeholder here before the comments. So let's remove the printf, and now the _n function will return modulus S comments if the comments is larger than 1. So what's returned from the _n, we'll put it as a first argument in the printf in order to replace the placeholder, and the second argument will be the comments again. So this way, if _n returned modulus S comments, the printf will replace the modulus S with the actual number of comments. So we should not echo now because printf already echoes. And we have 3 comments. Let's try 1, and we should have 1 comment. So that's how we can use _n. Let's now move on and highlight some other translation functions. We have _x, and this is when you want to give some context to your string. So let's say we have the word post. So this can be post as a noun and post as a verb. So _x can take a second argument where you can describe what do you mean. So in our case, you can say noun, and then the third argument will be the text domain. And this second argument, it can be anything. You can describe your string in any ways. We also have a version of _x, which is _ex, which will echo and translate at the same time. So now that we've seen some of the translation functions, I think it's time to mention that we will not use any of these functions. Remember in the last lecture when I told you that any input that is coming from the user must be escaped before it's outputted in our theme, right? So these strings will be replaced with translations, and these translations are coming from users, from translators. And the translator can put maybe a script tag as a translation for one of these strings. So most of the time, whenever we want to translate a string, we will not use these functions. WordPress provides other functions that will escape and translate at the same time, like escape _HTML_E. Some functions like _n have no escaping equivalent like the underscore E. So in this case we can use escape HTML and then call underscore N inside of it. I'll leave you a link in this lecture for all the other translation functions. But now let's move on to another situation I would like to highlight. So let's say we have a variable called city, and this could be something dynamic from the database. Now let's say it's currently London, and now we need to echo a translatable string which would say your city is, and then the variable city, right? And remember that we cannot use variables in the translation functions. So what we can do is we can echo, and then we can use remember we have to use now escape HTML and then underscore underscore. And then as a first argument we can say your city is, and then space, and of course our text domain. And then we can just append the variable city, right? So this will work. Let's take a look. However, this is not how it should be done. You're currently forcing the translator to just translate your city is without the actual city being in the context. In other languages, maybe the city will come in the middle, or maybe at the beginning. So in situations like this one, always use printf. So let's echo this string again, but now using printf. So printf, and then escape HTML underscore underscore, and then your city is, and then a placeholder. And of course a second argument is the text domain. And then finally the second argument for the printf function will be the variable city, right? So this way it will also work. Let's take a look. But now we are allowing the translator to put the city name wherever he wants in the sentence, right? So during the course we will have a lot of situations like this one. Another thing I want to point out is we can leave messages to the translator when we add placeholders in our strings. So if we add a PHP comment just before calling the translation functions, the underscore underscore, and then this comment starts with translators, and then colon, and then after the colon we can write a message to the translator. So for instance, in our example we can say modules s is the city name, for example. So it might be obvious here that the placeholder is the city name, but in some situations you will have to leave messages like this one. Alright, so let's finally go to our helper functions, and let's see if we will have to do any translations here. So we have here posted on, and then the time, and we also have by, and then the author name, and we need to translate these. So for the posted on, this is a situation where we can use printf. So we need to allow the translator to reorder the posted on and then something as he likes, right? So let's do here a printf, and then escape HTML underscore underscore, and then posted on, and a placeholder, and then of course the text domain first theme. And then the second argument for the printf will be the date inside the a tag, right? So we'll have to copy the a tag from here and then put it as the second argument for the printf. So let's just add the new lines to make this a bit more legible. And let's paste the a tag and then the time tag and the closing of the a tag. I think that should do it. So let's remove these echoes, and let's take a look in the browser. So let's go back to the home page, and as you can see, it's working, posted on, and then the a tag with the date inside of it. So let's do exactly the same for the by and then the author. So printf and then by and placeholder, and we just have to put the transition function, so escape HTML and underscore, and then the text domain, and the second argument for the printf will be the a tag, which contains the author name. So let's copy this from below. So let's now remove this one, and let's see if it's working. And it's working, but we also forgot the space before the by, so let's do it. And there we have it. So now our post meta function is fully translatable. Let's finally do the I know this lecture took too long, but let's do the read more link function. There is something a bit different about it. So here we have the read more, and then we have some text in a span tag for screen readers, as we discussed in a previous lecture. So what we can do here is printf also, and then escape HTML underscore, and then read more. And then let's copy the span tag. So read more and then about placeholder, right? And let's close the span tag. And let's just copy the text domain. And then the second argument for the printf would be the post title, right? So we can use get the title. So this way we will replace the placeholder with the title of the post, right? So let's remove this old echo here, and let's add a semicolon here. And I want you to notice something before even trying this on the browser. We are using escape HTML, and we actually have HTML inside of our string, right? So let's see what will happen now. And the HTML will be rendered as text because we are escaping it. So what we can do about that? Instead of escaping the HTML using escape HTML here, we can use another function. A function that will escape HTML but also can pass some tags. So in our case, we want to escape all HTML except the span tags. So let's call a function called wp kisses. So KSES. And the first argument for this function will be the string that we would like to escape. So it will be the string inside the underscore function. So it takes also a second argument, but let's close the wp kisses function first. And this second argument will be an array. And this array will be the list of tags that we want to allow, right? So in our case, it's a span tag, and this will be the key of the array, and the value will be another array of allowed attributes for this tag, right? So in our case, we can allow the class attribute, and this also will be the key of the array, and the value we can make it an empty array. And looks like we have some syntax error here. Yeah, we're missing a comma here, so let's add it. Great. So let's just quickly recap in case you are confused. So the printf function, the first argument for it will be the wp kisses function, and the second argument will be get the title. The wp kisses function, the first argument for it will be the string we want to escape, and the second argument will be an array of tags that we would like to allow, right? So let's take a look now. And looks like we've done something wrong. So let's take a look. And okay, I just forgot the S in the placeholder. Let's take a look now. And it's working fine. And also let's make sure the span tag is displayed, and here it is. Let's also try to add a script tag here, and let's see what will happen. So now we have a script tag that should not be rendered, right? So let's take a look. And as expected, the WP-cases function removed the script tag, and our string is now safe, right? Let's finally add the translation messages for the translators. It's a good practice, so let's do them real quick here. So here we can say modus s is the post date, and here we can say it's the post author, and then finally here we can say the placeholder is the post title, right? So I think that's it for internationalization and localization. During the course we will use these concepts a lot, so by the time I think you will get more used to them. So let's move on now to the next section.